Just a couple of housekeeping things before we get started. I'm Josh Cromwell. I'm the Institutional Repository Coordinator, and I manage Aquila, the platform that hosts SLIS Connecting, the journal you're going to learn more about today. If you'll see on each of the tables, we've got evaluation forms. If you would, just fill that out at the end of the session and drop that off so we can kind of take that in mind as we're looking at future programming. And the pen is our gift to you. That's an Aquila pen, so if you want to check out the site and learn more about it, by all means, take that with you and then give us a look later. There's also a sign-in sheet over here. If you missed that coming in, just stop by on your way out and then sign up there and leave your email address. We're recording the session, so that'll be made available afterwards. And if we've got your email address there, we can shoot you that link as soon as it's available. So today, our presenters are Dr. Stacy Creel and Dr. Teresa Welsh from the School of Library and Information Science and the founding editors of SLIS Connecting. And they're going to talk to us a little bit about the process of creating and then managing that journal today. So without further ado, I'll hand over to them.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll just go ahead and get started. For years, before Dr. Creel joined our faculty, we had been talking about doing an e-publication, an e-newsletter or e-journal or something, but we never could find the right software to use. You know, it was just a lot of talk. So the impetus for us doing this was when she joined our faculty, and she came with editing experience because she had been the editor for VOYA, the Voices
of Youth Advocates.
And so she had a lot of experience with that. And then shortly after she came here, she went to a committee meeting, and she heard in this meeting that the university had just purchased this software or made an agreement with so we would have this software for this e-journal. And she and I just said, well, let's jump on this. Let's go for it. Let's do it. You know, we've been wanting to do something like this. So that's what we did. And so we had to put a lot of thought in the front end, just what this would look like, what it would go into it. So what we decided was the purpose and the name SLIS Connecting, connecting people, technology, libraries, history, and learning, and to share news, info, and research through selected faculty publications, student publications, referee papers, and columns. And the main thing we wanted to publish was student research. Our students produce a good bit of research, and some of it gets published. We have at least 20 who have published in peer-reviewed journals, and another long list who have published in professional journals. But even with that, there is a great deal of research produced by students that is worthy and needs to get out there, but you know, it's a difficult thing to get published, and some students don't really have the time or want to make the effort to do that. So we wanted to publish student research that otherwise wouldn't be published, and also have columns with updates on what's happening, and then other papers too, you know, essays, things like that.
So this is a smaller, more spread out group, but if you were going to do a journal in your department, you know, think about where you work and what type of thing you could do. Like, for example, I was reading in the little pedal newspaper, I forget, it's their little pretend newspaper, that Owly just self-published a book of short stories and poetry they're gonna have a big reception and everything else. So hello, Aquila, like, you know, they could be doing online presentations, publishing fairly easily if someone wanted to reach out to them. So what kind of topics could your department do? Any thoughts, ideas?
I know I saw on the, just today, one of the university libraries I was looking at, they published a journal of e-science librarianship.
Okay, so e-science librarianship. Well, and I hate to say it too, I was looking at the list of potential things that may go by the wayside. You know, librarians do a lot of work on library guides that, you know, maybe this would be another way to, you know, house some of that information and get that kind of news out there. Even newsletters for your departments. Any other thoughts, ideas? I know we've got a lot of library people in here. I don't know if I know. Library? Okay. Woo! co-librarians. At least we all understand the lingo. So there are lots of things. I think sometimes we're just limited by our own time. You know, there's plenty of creative stuff we could be doing. You know, copyright is changing all the time. You know, so there's, even if it was just, you know, outbreaks, news items and stuff like that, it's fairly simple as long as you're not getting outside submissions, which we're going to talk about a little bit.
I know the Honors College uses it for an archive for their honors theses. The Faculty Senate uses it as an archive to archive Faculty Senate reports and minutes.
So, but to make sure that it stays around, we ought to be promoting it and pushing use as much as we can. So when we were doing, coming up with this, probably the hardest part was name, trying to come up with something that everybody could agree on. And then that tagline about connecting people, history, technology, learning, etc. We looked at our mission and tried to decide what is it we really do, and then argued and arm wrestled over what was going to be included, and whether we were going to take outside submissions and all the potential headaches that come along with that procedure. The recommendation process for faculty, we do the master's research projects and they are recommended by faculty for inclusion. Design, deciding the frequency, SLIS Connecting comes out twice a year. I'll say more about that on the next slide. Remembering the process, because it only comes out twice a year, and so from fall to spring, it's like,
How do we do that?
complete blank face. Time commitment, it takes a lot of time. We don't get any kind of course release or anything like that. But this is a great recruitment tool. It's a great retention tool because we have current students submit things as well. We use it in our accreditation process. So it has a lot of things that counterbalance the fact that it is a huge time commitment. And then when we did it, USM lacked any kind of procedures and didn't even know what Aquila was and that you could do publishing. I would like to think that that has kind of been fixed. So to come up with a name, we did some brainstorming, casual conversations around the office, and then we sent out a survey to the faculty and alumni and current students, and they got to vote. And SLIS Connecting was the winner. We decided that outside submissions were worth it. So far, we've only had 2. There are a lot of extra headaches that come with that. Teresa's going to talk about our international scope. And so the 2 submissions we've had have been from far, far away, which means requiring some additional time for edits, especially when there are some formatting issues, because we try not to go in and fix that. That's not necessarily our job. That's theirs. We highlight concerns and send it back and give them a time frame. The recommendation procedures from the faculty. At first, this was kind of like the Stacy and Teresa show. So it ended up being that I started harassing other faculty to make recommendations of master's projects, because every master's project is read by 2 faculty, the director and a selected second reader. So it goes through the process of that. So the only person who's reading everything is the director. So we were recommending, and the students select us based on our area of interest and expertise. So the first several papers were pretty focused on what we like to do and we like to read about and what we teach. So we started doing kind of a rotation, and I really have to harass people a little bit, but I'm okay with that. It fits with my personality. The design, after the name struggles, we decided that the design would have a lot more limited input, basically honest, and then just the approval of the director. It was very nice, and Teresa's going to talk about the how you do the process and how many iterations you get. But BE Press, Digital Commons, whatever you want to call them, they were very responsive to our suggestions and feedback about the images that they were using. and the color scheme and stuff. So we just decided that we were fashionable enough to do that ourselves. The frequency, we did kind of ask for faculty input on that because they submit things as well, like about new courses. We do a faculty spotlight, little brief features, like when Dr. Yu got a grant for her medical informatics class, she wrote up something about from that grant based on that. So if we said we were going to do it 3 times a year, well, that's going to be also pressure on them. So we did get their input on that and decide on twice a year. At first, we picked months. It was September and February.
And a day too.
Yeah, that was not smart. So if you do this, you fall and spring is much better because some falls are better than others. This one has been pretty rocky, so it will come out in November. So if we had tried to hit that September deadline with the start of school and everything else, that just would not, it was really, really difficult. So, and then remembering the process. Josh rocks. So we, every time it's a blank. So he is very good about assisting with that, sending reminders. Especially there are some things that, as an administrator to the system, he has access to, like Google Analytics, that we don't necessarily as the editors of the journal. Quick, responsive, so Josh rocks. And then we try to remind each other and start harassing everyone in our school fairly early about we're going to need the introduction by the director. We're going to need a faculty spotlight. We also do a spotlight on an alumni each time. Who's going to recommend the alumni this year, this semester? So we start trying to remind each other. And we're so late this year that actually our director, Dr. Haynes, was reminding us. We're like, no, it's on the plate. It's just kind of slow. And I would assume by now that PR is more in the loop than when we first started this, because there was some concern about, we have the Southern Miss logo. And as you know, if you've ever read that PR guide, there's a lot of details about where the logo can go and the space above it, the space below it, if it has to be first, if it's on the top of so I would assume by now that they know this exists. And they apparently had been to some meetings on Aquila, but just did not realize the sheer scope of everything it could do until we jumped in head first. So this is what our page basically looks like. Up at the top, you've got the banner. That stays every single month. That doesn't change. And we did have some input on the images up at the top. Like we knew we wanted technology. We knew we wanted books, some diversity thrown in there. The library, because we are an online program, but we're a real university. So we wanted a building. And then we get to change out the cover photo. That, if you don't know, is that
Friendship.
which I'm not a sentimental person. And I drove down with Teresa though, and I was like, yay, let's stand under the tree. But it, you get the idea. We get to select that, change it. That is probably one of the more time-consuming things, is editing the photo, getting it to fit within the banners. I use a program on my laptop. Getting the volume and issue in the right place and in the right font can be a little bit more time consuming. We have our regular columns listed first, which is the update by the director, the spotlights, which faculty, alumni, and course, student association, and upcoming events. So we have 2 student associations, and they both write a piece for that. Sometimes an extra one if they've been on a conference or something like that. They'll do an extra column. And then from the GAs, we ask the GAs to review books. If they've been to a conference, anything, let's see. They had that archive thing where they got that cute little kit, and I was so jealous, even though I don't archive books. But we took a picture of their kit, and they wrote up the great big, how great it was. So we get a lot of input from our GAs as well. And it's important to mention the papers are, if it's a master's research project, they've already been reviewed by 2 faculty. Then it goes through another editorial review, and everything is also reviewed by 2 or 3 GAs. down to the level of it's been through Turnitin, checking, spot checking citations. They do have to, you know, commit to the fact that everything is supposed to be, you know, properly cited and all that stuff. But it's a pretty thorough job. And then we get to the articles. We have invited and just submissions. So the first two, for example, are from recent alumni that those are more professional with references, images about how to do that program at your library. And in fact, I know the Family Place one was also a presentation at MLA. And instead of doing handouts, she just referred everybody to SLIS Connecting, which I thought was pretty nice. And then you go further down, we try to have at least 3 research papers each time. And so sometimes they come from a class, sometimes it's the master's project, that's not set in stone, sometimes it's an outside submission. And then further down, which you can't see on the screenshot, is the entire issue in one fell swoop, and it usually runs around 80 pages printed. So it's fairly hefty. And then, let's see if there's anything else I'm supposed to say about that page. I don't think so. And if I forgot it, I'll pick it up. We did want to show you kind of, if you haven't looked at a publication when it pulls up, this is a nice sheet that is done by Aquila. You don't have to do that. It's all automatic. We had to work through some paging issues and everything else when we first started, but they were really responsive. This is right now our most popular paper. And I also wanted to say, we try to highlight stuff in the library and in McCain. So I think so far every issue we've had something that's either from McCain or DeGrumman, right?
Yeah, a research paper.
Either like we've had Red Riding Hood, the cartoon collection, political cartoon collection, the African American poetry collection, Cinderella. I feel like I'm forgetting one. But anyway, so we also try to highlight all the cool stuff we have at Southern. And then, so they make this handy little sheet. They even give you a citation down at the bottom. And the other nice thing is you get to kind of decide the format and layout. I find in a lot of print journals that they're, you know, the older I get, the worse my eyes get. And so we probably added a little bit more space between columns and things like that. The great thing is you do get to have color images, of course, you know, with, you know, permission and citation and all that stuff. So it looks very nice, professional. We, like I said, came up with our formatting for the edges and the space and how the top is going to look. And then it's a PDF.
It says readers. Are those the reviewers of the article?
Yes.
And so you publish the name, they're not anonymous?
For the master's projects, yes, because it automatically, the research projects go through 2 faculty readers, and then, so they're put on there. Now, an outside submission does not get the,
These are our master students.
yes, these are in our program, so,
These are the faculty that supervise that.
Yeah, yeah.
that research project.
That's great.
So that's kind of what it looks like.
Sure.
Oh, I haven't, I don't have my glasses on today. If someone wanted to cite for an item they found, do the items have a DOI?
They do not. There's a permanent URL, and if you go back, it tells you really small on that first sheet. Let me go back.
And have y'all applied for ISSN?
Yeah, that's in the presentation. Yes, we are on it. So it tells you, see there's a permanent URL, I don't know if you can see that, it's pretty tiny. But it gives you the permanent URL that tells you the volume, the issue, and that this is Article 6, along with the author's name, the date, title, SLIS Connecting, all that stuff, and then the permanent link. We thought about the DOI thing, but to be honest, if it takes more time, I need to get tenure. So that's not even in the scope of things right now, so.
And I'd add just a quick technical note that the recommended citation there is customizable. So if you're in a discipline that uses, let's say, APA, and you wanted that citation in APA, then we can set that up too. That's sort of a customizable thing.
Now, one reason we were so excited about open access is because we teach online courses, and there's a whole big movement now from print to digital. And here's some quotes. The transformation from print to digital media for scientific communication, driven in part by the growth of the internet And the tremendous explosion and the amount of information now available to everybody is creating fundamental changes in institutions such as publishers, libraries, and universities. And the open access is part of that shift. The web has changed the way academics share, promote, and locate information. And in the use of electronic journals by academics, convenience, including free access, is important. And we heard this in the panel yesterday. Now, B-Press is the parent organization that produced Aquila, basically. And it was founded in 1999 because academic journals were plagued by slow turnaround times, limited access, and unreasonable prices. And you know, when you submit to a peer-reviewed journal and go through that review process, it takes about a year, you know, typically from the time you submit it to when it comes out. So, you know, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer. And not that that's not a bad thing. I mean, it's a good thing to get published in a peer-reviewed journal, but still, we heard yesterday in the panel, if you're a scientist, there's a push to get your research out there sooner. And it's an impetus by the federal government. You have to, if it's federally funded, make that available to the public. B-Press developed an online editorial management system that supports the peer review process. It can all be done electronically. They developed digital commons for institutional repositories to support faculty in creating and editing sustainable scholarly journals, as well as a variety of other publishing initiatives, like e-only press imprints, conference proceedings, student research, and more. And of course, we like to focus on the student research. A license with digital commons entitles institutions to set up training, technical support, upgrades, hosting, 5 free journals, including a setup design. And again, they took our ideas and and they created that banner for us, but we had to approve it, you know, and we told them what colors we needed and the logo and what images we wanted. And so we worked with them, but they created it for us.
So we have 5 free ones, so how many?
They've actually since waived that. There's no limit anymore, so we can support as many as you can dream up.
They have a whole library of images that are, you know, they have the copyright for us, so that's really nice. You don't have to worry about that. Digital Commons, it includes an etiquette, professional grade, peer review, editorial management system, and we're going to show you some screen shots of what that looks like. It supports social networking. It tracks usage data, including page views and downloads by geographic location, and that's really nice. As I mentioned at first, oh yeah, sure.
I don't know what that is. Is that the previous one? Is this some kind of service that we pay for that helps us
Yes.
produce
Yes.
electronic
Yes.
journals?
Yes, Josh can tell you about that. Josh is the repository coordinator.
Yes.
And the university bought, I don't know if it's a license for this, and you can produce professional-looking journals, you know, and the company will work with you to create your banner and everything, and it's just a really great software.
They're basically the parent company that produces Aquila. So-
And it doesn't
so they're-
have
they're
to.
the hosting.
Right, and we're talking about journals today, but like the CSRW, Committee for Services and Resources for Women, also is in the process of starting an archive of our previous posters, announcements, sessions, you know, stuff that we've got that we want available to the public. So it doesn't have to just be journals, it's got a whole bunch of other stuff in there, so.
For instance, Faculty Senate, the archive is through Aquila. It includes the etiquette, professional grade, peer review, editorial
You did
management.
those.
Oh, okay. Oh, and it tracks the data. That's the main thing. Now, I mentioned at first, you know, when this first came out, we had already been talking about it. We had an idea, and so we jumped on it. So we were the first Aquila e-journal. And by the way, does anyone know what Aquila means? It's Latin.
Eagle.
Yes.
I learned that from watching Bones.
Aquila means eagle.
Eagle?
Eagle. So we're the golden eagles. So
Even in
that's a
Latin.
really, I don't know, Josh, who came up with that name, but I thought that was brilliant to name our repository Aquila. Anyway, the first issue was February 2012, and we were the very first e-journal in Aquila. We're the most downloaded. We're the most popular e-journal. Second is the Online Journal of Health Ethics. Now, last year, we looked at the rankings, and the number 2 was the Journal of Marine Biology that was produced by the Coast. So you can see there's many great journals coming out of this university. We're also, among all the e-journals in Digital Commons, we're ranked as number 1 in archival science.
And they actually highlight different journals, and there's a whole community, and they did a nice write-up about SLIS Connecting and sent it out.
And what was that called, the other place you said that?
It's the BE,
Digital
Commons, BE Press.
Yeah, BE
Digital
Press is the
Commons Network.
parent, and Digital Commons is under them, and then Aquila is part of that. Okay. How many items have been downloaded since the first issue? Almost 25,000. And which were downloaded most? Now, we publish a variety of research, but it's funny. The most downloaded articles by far are the research articles that students did right here at DeGrummond. And I think it's because the fairy tale theme is universal. That's my own feeling. Anyway, Little Red Riding Hood, an analysis of the collection in DeGrummond is number 1 now, and Cinderella number 2. And you can see on the website, you can check most popular papers. And this, changes from day to day, but because Cinderella used to be number 1. And you can see at the top, the entire issue as number 1. Number 2 is the Little Red Riding Hood paper, 3 Cinderella, 4 entire issue. And you can see.
Is this mostly about the Grumman collection, the journal?
No, I think these are, every issue we try to publish research that highlights the Grumman or special collections, because our students do that a good bit. And so, there's a lot of great research out there, but no, it's not everything. We have.
Because if you go further down, Talk Dirty to Me, it was about teen sex books, which is not necessarily to Grumman. That's a lot of public libraries all over the place. But the other thing is, we use this as promotion and recruitment tool, and a way to get Southern's name out there, not just for our students, but in general. So it's, we try to also highlight the stuff of the university, if that makes sense. Yep.
Do you also highlight the civil rights collection?
If our students do a paper on it and it's good enough, we would certainly, do that, because it's by faculty recommendation. And but so far we've done African American poetry in the McCain archives, but I don't think anyone has done a master's project yet on the civil rights collection.
One of my honor students did it a few years back.
So yeah, so if,
I don't know if you're able to go back and pick up past papers or not.
We prefer the past papers because we like to choose papers that are at least a year old to make sure students have an opportunity to publish somewhere else. You know what I mean? So we like to give them a year, and we encourage them to publish. And so we figure if they haven't published in a year,
yeah.
then we're going to look over them.
So this is made up of student articles only?
No, we have outside submissions as well, and then,
Outside submissions, though, have been students too.
well, alumni, except for the 2 people from.
Oh, that's true. That's
We've
true.
had 2 from somewhere in the Middle East
Yeah.
that are not our students.
And it's peer reviewed.
Yes.
Interesting.
So it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Although bibliometrics, even the 2 outside articles were library science bibliometric type research, which is what a lot of our master's projects are.
Do the students, when they submit it, there's a little interface where they just upload it?
Yes, and I'm going to show you like where the submission link is and talk about that in just a second. And we also take it by email, and I'll mention why that as well. When we started going through the process of getting listed in the directory of open access journals, we realized that the standard language that comes from Digital Commons is that they are basically giving up their copyright, and we as open access fans did not felt that that was the route we wanted to go. So we went in and edited it and changed it. And with Josh's help, decided to pick this license, which allows them to share, copy, redistribute the material in any medium or format, remix, transform, and build upon it. And they can use it as long as they're giving credit to link to the license, indicate if any changes were made. It has to be non-commercial, and there are no additional restrictions, so they can not apply for legal terms or technological measures that restrict others from doing it. So, but we are now Creative Commons licensed instead of the wording of Digital Commons, which was like basically they are giving us their copyright. We don't want it. We don't want your copyright. You can you know, keep that, share it, do whatever. And then we decided, also along with trying to get into the DOAJ, that we needed an ISSN. That's International Standard Serial Number, the 8-digit code that lets you know that this is SLIS Connecting worldwide, and that's the link where people can apply for that. But it is an important step in getting listed in the DOAJ, which is Directory of Open Access Journals. You know, the provost sent out that link saying be wary of open access predatory journals. Well, the directory, of course, lists the ones that are the real thing instead of the predatory ones. And we want to, of course, be in there for multiple reasons. The aim of the DOAJ is to increase the visibility and ease of use of open access scientific and scholarly journals, thereby promoting their increased usage and impact. The DOAJ aims to be comprehensive and cover all open access scientific and scholarly journals that use quality control systems to guarantee the content. It aims to be the one-stop shop for users of open access journals. And they use the pretty strict definition of open access, which is the BOAI definition. We support the rights of users to read, download, copy, distribute, print, search, or link to full text of the articles as mandatory for the journal to be included. It has to exercise peer review or editorial quality control. Journals that report primary results of research or overviews of research resulting to the scholarly community. So if we just had our regular columns and didn't have research, you can't be included. They also emphasize the number of times, how many research articles you have to have a year. So if you think that you're going to do a research publication and you want to be listed in this, I suggest you look at all qualifications first. And then it has to be with the idea that it's going to be indefinite at regular intervals, more frequently than annual. And you have to, of course, use issue volume, and it's got to be dated consecutively. So we thought when we were going to apply for this that it was going to be easy. It's not. It's 56 questions from the simple, like your name, to the more complex, like the digital archiving policy, which Josh helped us figure out some of the questions because I was like, I don't know, locks. And it can take 3 to 6 months for them to get to your application. They don't give you any kind of information about where they are in the process. So you're just waiting. We submitted ours sometime this semester, didn't we? Mm-hmm. So here's hoping. The journal's ISSN number, the country, publisher, and title registered at ISSN have to match, of course, the application. There has to be an editorial board. It has to be identifiable with contact information. And we do sometimes use our editorial board to review the outside submissions. So that is mandatory. Full text of articles is free and immediate, so you can't have any kind of embargo, which of course goes along with especially grant-funded stuff where the federal government's like, hey, the people paid for this, the people ought to have access, and they need to have it right away. The open access policy is clearly stated and easily findable on the web. Use some form of peer review, meet the BOI definition, and they prefer no charges, but if there are charges, they have to be explicitly described for the authors submitting. And I guess, you know, in our field, charges are, you know, who makes enough in the humanities or library science to pay to have your stuff published, but I guess in maybe other fields, that's even with reputable journals, there is some kind of pay thing. So this is the back side of managing your account. The submit an article is where they submit there on the side. It's fairly straightforward. It attaches a Word document. They also it automatically converts it to a PDF. There are some perks of that it's automatically in the system. The kind of downside is that they build in a timeline. So if you're not keeping on top of things, you get notices saying that, like if we know we're pushing it back to November, the publishing date, then the pressure is not really there, but you do get notices because you have to assign it to an editor, and then it gives the editor so many months, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's one of the downsides. We also accept things by email, which also has its downsides because we get a whole bunch of email and it can easily be lost, misplaced, et cetera. But it is nice that they have that, and it is fairly straightforward. I mean, we have had no questions. People are able to submit with no problem. If we want to change the way that the page looks, that I get it. It's the, where is it? That's what it looks like, the configuration. So we can go in, and so when we decided it was quite insane to pick September and February and give actual dates, we were able to easily go in and change it to fall and spring with no problem. That part is more intuitive than the actual uploading procedure. It is kind of weird. There's like you have to, you don't just do it and hit save. You have to remember to update the site. So I would sometimes do it and I'm like, where are my changes? And then, well, I didn't update the site. So my changes are saved but doing nothing. But the other part where you're doing the submissions is a little bit more difficult. I don't remember if I put a screenshot in of that or not. So what happens is they submit, like this is one from an external person who has an information theory research project. When it was submitted, I assigned it to Dr. Welsh because I got in there first. Sucker. So you gotta check it fast because now it's our problem. No, I'm just kidding. But I did go in faster than she did. And assigned it to Dr. Welsh. And then it lets her know that if it doesn't make this issue, because it does need some editorial reviews, that no matter what, we were supposed to have let this person know in June the process, and she has been in contact. And you can contact them through the system, or you can contact them through email, and I believe you do it through email. So that's kind of the way it looks. And then once you get ready to upload things, it's not intuitive. It is. I guess there are more difficult things available, but like I said, Josh rocks, and thank goodness for that, because he makes it a lot easier. So, and things have to be loaded in the order you want them to appear, and you have to select whether it's a column or it's an article, and you have to remember the page numbers because you have to set the next page number. So I mean, and if you really do want things to be perfect before you upload them, because it's a pain for Josh, who rocks, to have to go in and fix it after the fact, because a couple of times, no matter how many times we go through it, sometimes it's not till it's all done, and I'm like, ooh, let's print it out. And then I'm like, so you'll see that something's been missed, tweaked, the spacing is wrong, whatever it is. So you really do want it to all be perfect before you submit it. But it is quite a process. So the maintaining the site is easier than the submissions. Let's put it that way.
Do y'all have, do you teach a publishing class and have students in those classes help with any of that?
I don't think that, you mean that like the editing process itself, not the uploading?
Well, I guess just kind of getting a feel for it, they can go in and.
They do an e-portfolio,
Okay.
and they learn how to do some simple image editing and things like that, and they have to upload things to their e-portfolio, so that's sort of
I mean,
similar.
I wouldn't want to give them access to them because, let's say they got an F and decided to go in and be like, if you see case list, I don't think we'd want that, that kind of access for them, basically. We do have, like I said, the GAs review stuff, but I don't think we'd want to give them any kind of actual control, so.
No, we try to have everything ready, everything in PDF for the next issue, and Josh comes up and helps us get all of that uploaded, because you have to load each thing up individually and do tags, and then you have to do it all as one issue. And like I say, it's a lot of little things, and so I don't know if we could do it without Josh. But he's been wonderful to help us, but we try to get everything ready, he comes up. The author dashboard is another thing. If you edit, you can see this, and you can track your downloads.
And the outside submissions, they get this too. If we put in the student stuff, as long as we put their name with it, they can go in and get like their results.
Now, Google Analytics, this is something we can't do, but Josh, the administrator, can do, and he runs the analytics for us every once in a while. And they track page views, whereas we can see downloads, which is a slightly different thing. This tracks page views. And from the first issue through October 2014, there were over 1,300 page views in Google. And there are other ways to access it, but Google is probably the main one. Most were within the U.S., the greatest number in the Southeast, then the Northeast, Southwest, Northwest. A pattern similar to where our alums are located. This is a Google Analytics, and it shows you the page views, and you see it spikes after each issue. When the issue is newly out, we put it out there through the listservs and social media, and that's when it gets the most attention, shortly after it's published. This is page view locations within the U.S. And again,
We need to do some recruiting in Wyoming.
and this is 2013, so I need to update it, but it's probably hasn't changed much, except there'll be more dots on there. Now this is the alumni locations, and you can see a similar pattern. I'll go back. Although the readership is broader than our alums, but still it follows a similar pattern. Now, outside the U.S., this is what was surprising, 2,200 page views in 101 different countries. The top 7 countries outside the U.S., Iran, the U.K., Canada, Nigeria, India, Australia, and China. The greatest number to least by continent, North America, Europe, Asia, Africa, South America. And the spatial pattern indicates a much wider audience than our alums and students. And Josh did this through Google Analytics for us. It shows some of the page views. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
What amazes me, Mongolia. There's somebody in Mongolia looking at this. Where else? Nepal, different African countries, South America, all over. Okay. So the patterns are similar to the alumni within the U.S., but unexpectedly was the reach. And we think some reasons might be just the fact that it's open access, and if you're in a poor country and don't have tremendous resources in your library, you're going to be looking for open access things to provide for your scholars and your students. It's well indexed in Google and Google Scholar, and so you can search for any of the topics that we've published on, and our articles will come right up. We send out announcements, and I'm pretty well connected on social media. I make a real effort to connect with every librarian, academic, student, whatever that I can find in Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and so I post this, and on listservs. I belong to quite a number of listservs, and I promote it through listservs, both regionally and nationally, and internationally, like IFLA. I'm on the IFLA listserv, so I send it out through there.
And we also will highlight specific papers. So if there's an interesting paper about archival, I don't teach archives, then when she will send that out to the archive lister saying, hey, the new edition of SLIS Connecting is out. You might want to check out, you know, ABC, or if there's something about academic libraries, like there was an article about navigating the copyright maze, then that will go out on that listserv. The new issue's out, and hey, you might be interested in, you know, fill in the blank.
Yeah, so we try to, and I think every issue we kind of expand our social media because we're always finding listservs to join. Also, I think it's a great mix of refereed student research, also some essays and columns and news, and you know, this really helps in our accreditation process because I'm always on the lookout for where news of our students getting a job or getting a promotion. So I'm just constantly looking for that, and when I find it, I'll stick it in that alum news column for the next issue of SLIS Connecting. And every issue, when I go and look at it, I said, oh my goodness, look at this long, long list and these great jobs our alums are getting. And also things like grants and awards and you know, any good news like that we like to publish. It's a great tool for recruitment, and it's a great outreach, because one of the things ALA is, their accrediting process is so tough. They want to know, where are your graduates? What are they doing? Are they getting good jobs? What are you doing to outreach to your students and alums? So this is one thing we can show them that we do. It also promotes connectivity because we're an online program. We're always wanting to make sure the students in New York and Wyoming and Texas or across the country, Alaska, can feel connected with us and feel a part of USM. And I think this helps if we can, you know, put their news in there, what they're doing. It also is a community building tool, and you know, we like to think that we're building community with our faculty and alums and students.
I think that's it, unless you have any questions for us. And like I said, it's really worth it, but it is definitely time consuming. So, you know, if you think it's going to be something you can do, you know, in 10 minutes, not so much so. But otherwise, you know, it has been, I think, well worth it. I mean, don't ask me that like the week we're trying to get it out, but any other time I will tell you it has been well worth it.
It is, and we really depend on our graduate assistants. We have them review everything, and we have some really great mature graduate assistants who have, one of them has had experience teaching in a writing lab, and so she knows a lot about grammar and proper formatting and all of that. So we have her to review everything, both at the stage when we're beginning to review it, and then we will reformat it and she will review it again. So we have multiple eyes looking at everything to try to make sure everything is no typos, no incorrect things. And it's really hard. You know, we have news about a lot of people, our faculty, we put news about faculty and students. I try to send it out to people we're writing about and say, you know, just proof this and make sure we've got your info right. If we've got a picture of someone, you know, are you okay with this picture? You know.
Have y'all seen any citation, you know, people citing the articles and things?
You know, that's a great question.
I don't think we've looked.
We haven't really had time to look. We haven't thought about it.
I'm trying to get tenure.
I did run across somebody that cited, but that was just accidental. I wasn't looking for it, but I did run across somebody that cited, I think it was the Cinderella paper.
Yeah, it was the Cinderella paper.
But, you know, we really need, that's on our radar. We ought to see how well it's being cited out there. So.
You know, you said it's indexed in Google Scholar.
Yes. It's,
And it,
yeah.
and that's one of the reasons when we put in the keywords, I think it's pretty important that, because I don't think it's like full text. It's just by the keywords, right?
No, the full text is indexed as well,
Is
as long
it?
as the PDF
Well,
is
then
text readable. So.
I'm going to stop stressing about those then. So, but it's, you know, it comes up, you know, top of the line when you research one of the topics. So.
But yeah, I wanted to mention about the two outside submissions. One was from a doctoral student and her colleagues in Iran. and she submitted a really interesting bibliometric paper. And it was difficult because there were issues with, English as a second language. So there were quite a bit of edits, and, we asked her to do much of it, and but then we had to reformat it and all that too. But I thought that was really, really interesting. Also, our latest submission, I don't know if you noticed the name, but she's from Indonesia, and I met her at a conference. I have met this young woman, I'm pretty sure that's the one, and she has submitted a really interesting bibliometric paper, so we hope to put that in the next edition. I think it just, we don't get these very often, but I think it's important since we have international reach and across the globe, to make an effort to publish international papers when they're sent to us, if they're worthy, and the two we've gotten have been very, very good.
And the other thing, if you do this, I would say don't underestimate the time that it takes to format stuff, especially papers with charts and images. Once you reduce it down to those 2 columns, and it's got to fit just so.
We spend a lot of time.
And students will do some really crazy stuff when they're doing their formatting. And I've discovered, turning on that little P that shows me where they've put crazy breaks and stuff is a definite necessity. Because if not, when you make columns, it will wrap crazy. So that the 2 columns go, it'll go into the next page, into 1 column. I mean, you really do have to be careful. And even after it's all done, you print it out and you read it word for word to make sure it's doing the right thing.
Any closing questions or comments? Just like to say, it's time consuming, but it's a very rewarding thing, and it sort of gives us a creative outlet, so we enjoy it. You want to say anything, Josh?
Well, I want to thank both of you for a great presentation. It's been, once again, a really, really informative presentation, so thank you both.
And I just want to say, Josh rocks.